Hey everybody, welcome to 90s with Kyle. That's right. I have taken over the show.
Right.
For at least this week.
He pushed me off and now he's doing it. Right.
And you know what? I figured because on a future episode of Saturday Scares with Kyle, I'm going to be covering some smut. Why don't we cover the journey of smut with this discussion of 8mm, directed by, of all people, Joel Schumacher.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought that Joel Schumacher would have ended the 90s with two odd Batman films and a snuff film dissection with Nicolas Cage. Now, this movie was written by Andrew Kevin Walker. You may remember that name. He wrote Seven. Yep. He also wrote the Wolfman remake in 2010 that I actually think is not as bad as people think it is. Andrew Kevin Walker has done consistently good writing, but he's actually Andrew Kevin Walkered away from this movie because he didn't like that the movie was going tame. Now, if you've seen 8mm, you know that the movie's not tame. I'll give you a quick plot synopsis here. It has to do with surveillance specialist Tom Wells, who's been hired by the widow of a well-known, recently dead man to investigate the validity of a snuff film found in his possession. He teams up with a street-smart Max to trail the supposed female victim in the seedy underground video market. So, yeah, I know. It's just like Batman and Robin. What you have here is Nicolas Cage, who appears in this film, and he's kind of hitting that part where he's going to do the kind of performance he wants to do, and you're just going to be along for the ride. This is very much a post-Con Air, post-Face-Off Nicolas Cage. It's also post-Oscar-winning performance Nicolas Cage. And yes, his Oscar is in the movie. It is actually sitting on the desk of James Gandolfini's character when we first get introduced to him, and it's wearing lace and straps. That's why you can't exactly tell it's there. But next time you watch the film, go check out that scene because, yes, he's got a BDSM Oscar on his desk.
Rising star Joaquin Phoenix. This is the first time we actually saw that this guy has teeth.
Yeah. We've talked now a few different very out there Joaquin Phoenix roles recently, and
this is the one where he put him out there. That he's actually they have a good scene together.
Yep. Yeah, I remember when I watched this film originally, I did not recognize him, so must have been maybe even pre-signs when I saw this because that's where I really connected with Joaquin Phoenix as an actor. Mm-hmm. We have James Gandolfini doing a very James Gandolfini supporting role. Basically, outside of The Sopranos, that's what he did. He did kind of these like lesser characters in the film, more or less mob hitmen. Peter Stormare is basically playing every character he's ever played before. But the standout for me actually in the film is the guy that consistently doesn't get a lot of attention, even though he is so great at smarminess, and that is Anthony Heald. He plays George Higgins, kind of the I don't know, the fixer of this family that comes in. You recognize him from Silence of the Lambs as well. He played Chilton, the guy who runs the prison.
Yep.
Every movie he's in, he's kind of playing that smarminess level.
Smarmy is that.
But it's so nice seeing him with way more screen time in this film, getting to really play up his villainy. I like actors that are willing to go all the way there, and I think he does, especially when you really look at the contents of a movie about snuff film. Lastly, we have Chris Bauer, who is in the film. He plays Daniel Longdale, one of the characters that we come across near the end of the film. He was in True Blood, and again, finally got the chance to stand out on the TV show True Blood, but here he's kind of playing a character that I wouldn't have wanted to portray. I can tell you that much right now. Yeah. So I do appreciate actors that are willing to play that villainy. We've seen Nicolas Cage play similar kinds of extreme villainy before. We're probably going to see that again in the upcoming film Longlegs, which I'm more than excited for. But Joel Schumacher doesn't seem like the kind of guy you'd expect to make a movie like this. Yes, he's done these kind of harder-edged films. You know, Lost Boys, for all of its fantasticalness, is pretty intense at times. Flatliners is a very intense film, but I think 8mm definitely pushes it to that level that we probably wouldn't see him touch on again until maybe the number 23, about 10 years later. It's just not the kind of film that I would have expected him to have. He had this ability to cross genres in a really impressive way, and while I don't think he was entirely the right choice, I think maybe the original choice of trying to get David Fincher involved would have made this an interesting spiritual, successor to Seven, and I think it would have made Andrew Kevin Walker a little happier, although I'm wondering what the hell kind of movie would have happened if you'd gotten David Fincher and Andrew Kevin Walker's original idea, because this movie did perform fairly well, but it was lambasted by critics who I think weren't ready to see what this film had to show. To be fair, I've talked a lot about how recent 90s kind of like hard-edged films usually have a little bit less edge than the average episode of Game of Thrones. So this one still hits pretty hard. It's still a little more intense than I expected it to be. There's a little bit of silliness in terms of like the hiring of Nicolas Cage's character. Some of the revelations at the end kind of felt like they were just scenes stolen out of Lethal Weapon. But I do think overall 8mm is an exciting and fun, well, fun's not the word I use, exciting an intense film that really goes places that I haven't seen a lot of movies go before or since. There was a sequel that was released to direct-to-video, but I don't really know where else you'd want to go with this kind of a story. So I never got around to seeing it, but if you have, let me know down in the comments section. And thank you for checking out this little breakdown of 8mm. Again, this is the kind of movie that I would suggest if you think it's a movie that you can handle, give it a try, but it is fairly intense. There's some actual truly horrific moments in the movie that I'm guaranteeing Amy Pascal took a beating over for having picked up and produced this with her studio, because it's not one I would have greenlit. But let me know your thoughts on the film down below in the comments section. And if you would have greenlit the film, and what you think would have been a better choice of director than either Fincher or Schumacher. Maybe you have another idea in mind as well. Thank you so much for joining me. Stay in the 90s, and we'll see you next week. Maybe I'll let Nick back.